We love you, Mrs.
My favorite thing is that Mrs. Slipher came up with Fun Day. Mrs. Slipher is really nice.
She says the gospel on the announcements.
She's very devoted to her faith.
Love you, Mrs. Slipher.
I'll be the light.
Mrs. Slipher is really organized. Mrs. Slipher is selfless.
My favorite thing about Mrs. Slipher is that she's always nice to me in my class.
The thing is, well, most principals are big and mean and scary, and if you do one little thing, you're afraid they're gonna like tackle you and everything. But Mrs. Slipher is just, well, not that kind of girl.
There are so many memories you have made here that I will never forget.
My favorite memory is when you got hit by a water balloon.
Whenever I give her cookies, she hugs me.
Whenever I walk by her in the halls, she calls me sweetie, and she's always nice to me.
Miss you, Mrs. Slipher.
After every Christmas play or every play we've had, you've given us Jeans Days.
You have helped us at all the elementary and middle school and just prevent bullying, help them.
She was always on our side.
My favorite thing about Mrs. Slipher was that whenever we asked her if we could wear jeans, she would let us.
Miss Mrs. Slipher.
I will miss Miss Slipher because she led our school with love and care.
And I'll miss Miss Slipher because she treated us as if we were her children.
The thing about Mrs. Slipher is that she's always been there for us since day one, and she's a very genuine person.
My favorite thing about Miss Slipher is that she's chill and she understands us and our problems. Favorite memory about Mrs. Slipher is when we threw water balloons at her on Fun Day. memory about Mrs. Memory about Mrs. Slipher is when we threw water balloons at her. Memory about Mrs. Slipher is when we threw water balloons at her on Fun Day.
My favorite memory about Mrs. Slipher is when I was having trouble with my temper. She gave me a little Decade of the Rosary made by Father Severin to help me soothe my anger.
My favorite thing about Mrs. Slipher is how kind she is to everyone. She really has nice things to say to people, and she helps out people when they're in trouble, and also that she's a princess.
Well, one of the things that I think I recognize most about Mrs. Slipher was that she seems to think outside the box when it comes to recognizing yours truly, Mr. Duncan, as the forefront of men's fashion, as my color combinations and are very perfect, unlike Mr. Spicer and some other members of the men's staff like Mr. Hammond. They're always out of whack. But she always recognizes me as the forefront of men's fashion. But more importantly, she is a very godly woman, and I really like her prayers in the morning, all the things she's done over the years and the various things she's done, and her support of our Rosary, our Chapel of Divine Mercy, Stations of the Cross, our Veterans Day ceremonies, See You at the Pole, all the things that we've been doing for the last 10 or 15 years. She's always provided strong support and flexibility in determining the schedule and various other things that she does. So, as I said, she's a great godly woman. She goes to St. Simon sometimes, and I'm there too, because we live about a couple miles apart. St. Simon's is our nearest church that we go to for Mass sometimes. So my hat is off, and I thank her very much for all the support for me for the last 14 years, and I wish her all the best in the future in all her endeavors and everything that she does. So thank you, Mrs. Slipher.
My favorite memory, or one of my favorite memories of Mrs. Slipher, is that she always dressed up as the St. Teresa, the Little Flower, on the Saint's Day. She arranged for the teachers to kiss a goat one time. That was one of my really favorite memories. And when there was a time for a teacher to have a bunch of water dumped on, she volunteered and came forward and surprised all the students by wearing waterproof garments so that she would not get all wet. There are many other memories I have of Mrs. Slipher, but these are one of my favorites.
I think the thing that I will appreciate most from Mrs. Slipher is the fact that she treated her staff well. Between my daughter having twins and my husband having cancer, there was some extra times when I just needed someone to understand that I'll be here as much as I can.
but I need you to roll with that. And she was fabulous. I really, really appreciated that. And there was no one else who could do what she did.
Okay, well, I have known Mrs. Slipher since I came to St. Michael's in 6th or 7th grade, I can't remember which one. And my first impressions of her, I remember when she first walked into the room, I think I was in Mr. Duncan's class, and she came in and I remember thinking that she looked very intimidating for some reason. And but got to know her, and she was always really nice, and enjoyed her being our principal. And I'm coming from a unique perspective because I have had her as a principal, and now I am a teacher here working with her. And Mrs. Slipher was the one who hired me, and I'm very, very thankful that she got me the job here, and that I've gotten to get to know her a little bit more. She's very sweet, very kind, has always been very supportive in what I'm doing and helpful, and giving me a lot of good guidance. And I'm very sad to see her go because I only got to work with her for a year. But I want to thank her for everything that she's done for me and for all the opportunities, and wish her well on whatever life brings at her next.
Okay, my favorite thing about Mrs. Slipher is every morning she comes in for her cup of tea, and sometimes she can't reach her cup, so I have to get her cup down for her. And then she boils her water and she makes her tea. And she's always very quick to tell me, I need more tea, Maura. That's my favorite thing about Mrs. Slipher.
It's been a long